Hello, BillWhittle.com members. I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, and this Backstage episode of Right Angle is coming to you a little later than usual. I want to thank, first of all, my gracious employer, Bill Whittle, for giving me a little time off. I traveled to Tennessee for the funeral of my little brother, and it was a tough couple of days, and it's nice to work for people who care enough to make accommodation for that, and also for you, for your patience waiting for these episodes that you'll be seeing a day or so late this week. I know that Bill has filled in the meantime with, did you do one or two BillWhittle.now? BillWhittle.now, yeah. Bill Whittle Now episodes, Bill?
I just posted the third one.
Okay.
Nice.
So we did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay, well.
And Scott, if you'll let me jump in here.
Sure.
Bill put up the little notice, I guess it was yesterday, and I know the comments on YouTube can be a real cesspit sometimes, but not this time.
Good.
The comments there were very supportive.
So many kind people on Facebook and on our website and on YouTube, and sending me private messages. Those who had private contact information for me have sent me private messages as well, and it's been a real encouragement. It's nice to see that there are things about life that supersede our differences and that make us, for at least a moment, put aside everything else. And
to say the least.
Yeah. So we're back at it now, and this week was supposed to be my members only week, but Steve has been gracious enough to jump in and pick up that extra burden for me this week. So we're going to swap out, which means Steve, you win the toss and get to go first.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say I appreciate you calling it gracious. I'd say it's just what you do at a time like this. But I would also add that I am not so gracious as to spare you a lightning round.
That's true.
You're killing me, Larry.
He's such a hero, he doesn't even know he's a hero, you know?
So, you know the drill, hand-picked headlines.
Lightning stills constitute fully 38% of our operating budget here at BillWhittle.com.
Those thumbnail pictures.
Yeah. Tells you something about our operating budget.
I was wondering, because some of my roots are kind of dark, if we could start calling this lightning round, like
there you go.
Lightning, very clever.
Yes, and that not only would that lighten up the roots and restore it to my childhood blonde hair color, but also I think it would give Bill a whole new well of potential images for the thumbnails.
We could also get Just for Men hair coloring as a potential sponsor.
No one can tell.
Yeah.
No one can tell. So. Lightning round, which is Steve's catch-all. It's basically he grabs all the. Is this accurate, Steve? It's all the stories that really wouldn't justify an entire episode for themselves.
Yeah, it's a combination of serious and weird.
Or let me in the most positive spin.
Weird.
This would be the episodes that we would shoot as full episodes if we were doing like 10 a week instead of 5. So they would actually justify a full episode, but we bump them because of the 5 top quality.
It's our way to pack extra content into such a small space.
Extra content. That's exactly what it is. So
and the internet is only so big, and you can't overload it. That's members, or is that for
that's members? Yeah.
Okay.
And for the general public, those freeloaders, we have guess what? Bill, I think you're really going to like this one especially. And Scott, you're going to enjoy, I think, maybe the humor aspect of this one. But it turns out that Lord of the Rings is racist.
I have heard about this. In fact, you know where I heard about it? I was reading one of my favorite websites, instapundit.com, and one of the guys that I follow on there, Stephen Green, I believe, actually
I've heard of this guy, yeah.
He's an idiot.
A link to a story about this. So, in what way is it racist?
Breaking news from 2001.
No, it's breaking news from the Middle Ages or something. It's
from
Middle Earth. That's right.
Headlines from so deep in the past, even
great.
the continents were different.
Wait.
Yeah, Kat Timpf. I mean, this people have made this argument before. Kat Timpf over at National Review just caught the latest instance of it. And it's not just some cranky person on Twitter or Facebook. This is actual sci-fi author Andrew Duncan. Wow, man, I got to boost the text size of my notes or start wearing my reading glasses when we're on the air. But
a sci-fi author made this claim?
Yes.
Oh, it's because of how the orcs are portrayed, and there's no depth to those characters. They're just uniformly nasty.
And the orcs are furious
I'll bet.
Because orcs' lives matter.
Orc lives matter. That's right.
Orc lives. Oh my goodness!
It's the crazy years, and the thing is, wasn't the race card played out in 2008? And it hadn't been in 2008. Wasn't it played out in 2012? And
it was played out in the 90s.
Yeah, and here we are still.
Well, I think to a certain extent, in literature and in film and in story, we create characters like orcs in order to imbue them with terrible characteristics that we would not want to impute to somebody of a specific race or sex or country of origin.
Or even just a fellow human being.
Yeah,
so we create monsters because there are monstrous people, but you don't want to paint humanity with that broad brush.
Yeah, and so now they're taking that away from us, and I guess at some point we will become the righteous and utopian individuals that they dream we all should be, and one wonders what they're going to do when it gets to that point and they find themselves wanting.
Good question. So that's what I have for you boys this week.
Okay.
I hope you enjoy.
Well, the topic that I would like to explore actually comes from a new survey from a website, and I'm actually afraid to mention this website. They are a reliable source that is often quoted by Wall Street Journal, USA Today, places like that. But I just we don't get any kind of affiliate fee for this, Bill, so I'm reluctant to mention their name. So I want to get paid for this. But anyway, it's this website called Bankrate that's done a survey, and they asked people, the American people, what is the biggest threat to the economy right now? 14% said they didn't know. That was the number 2 answer. The number 3 answer that was actually something, that the biggest threat to the economy, 9% said terrorism. That was the number 3 answer. Number 1 answer, 43% of the public said the biggest threat to the economy right now is the political environment in Washington, D.C.
Agreed.
43% of the people believe that. And then I saw also that economists, CNBC polled 10 leading economists, and there were a couple of other surveys from J.P. Morgan and some others that basically they're expecting the economy to slow down in 2019 and 2020. The economists' general consensus was 2.4% in 2019, and that by 2020 we could possibly be in a recession. And the reasons are, number 1, trade wars and tariffs. Number 2, the Fed rate hikes. And number 3, the diminishing effect of the tax cuts. Like we got a boost from the tax cuts, but that's going to dwindle off. And so I just thought it was interesting. We haven't been in this growth spurt or cycle for very long, and already some of the leading lights are predicting that it's going to take a downturn. And our fellow Americans, or at least almost half of them, 43% of them, are saying that it's Washington, D.C. that's the problem. It's the political climate there.
Absolutely. The American people are pretty smart. I wish we could agree on a solution and get some new people in Washington, but I think
we can't agree on the solution, and you just gave it to us.
And it's interesting to me that like number 2 was at 9% and was terrorism.
Yeah.
43 is a huge plurality when you think of the potential list of threats to the economy.
So anyway, I'd like to kick that around a little bit in our episode this week. And, obviously we're not prognosticators. We're not even economists, although I would rather be a prognosticator than an economist.
Prognosticators get it right now and then.
Occasionally they get it right, yeah. But I do think it's fascinating that now that the Democrats have seized the House, all of a sudden I'm seeing stories about the possible downturn in the economy. And you would think that those stories would have proliferated before the Democrats took control. But in any case, here they are. And I guess I'm wondering, are the economists right? Are things slowing down? And number 2, are a plurality of Americans correct in saying that if it does slow down, the reason for that is because of what those weasels in D.C. are doing?
Yeah. I mean, the House the GOP House, I should say, was just not very good. But I'll say this much for them. They weren't Democrats.
Well, so they got that going for them, which is nice.
Yeah.
So, Bill Whittle, you have had more than your share of work this week, but that's no reason why we shouldn't continue to drive you mercilessly. What would you like to talk about in your episode of Right Angle this week?
There, you read like Drudge or Instapundit, and it's just one continuous kind of simmering low-level outrage. Just sort of a get off my lawn, you progressives. So it's rare to find something that actually elicits a come on.
Oh, what'd you find?
But sure enough, we did. We're talking about the growth in America's oil independence and energy independence. Barack Obama said that energy production increased every year during his presidency, and now we're a #1 energy producer. And this is, I think, a direct quote. That's me, people.
Yeah.
The former president said,
yes, Barack Obama.
That's me. The reason we've got so much energy now is me, and it's not even like those are my policies, because they're not.
No.
They're the antithesis of his policies. But he said no. The reason America's doing real well is because of me, because of what I did.
Just the overflow of his glory.
It's a psychotic reaction.
Now keep in mind. Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted there.
No, it's it. It's just they run like conservatives, and they take credit for economic gains, although all of their policies are designed to slow the economy down. And I just don't know. I just can't connect to a person who is that.
Bill, but you're not thinking it through, Bill, because what really happened here is because the Obama administration posed themselves as an obstacle to the Keystone Pipeline that would have increased the amount of refined petroleum product here in the United States that was coming from the oil sands of Canada. Because of that, it drove domestic producers to find other ways of getting more product to market, and so
that's actually not.
That's a Scrapple face
joke.
right there.
But that's not a joke. That's for real. And I think the way I might actually play this is to say the only possible explanation for this is that he has suppressed energy growth for so long that upon his departure, it sprung at such an astonishing rate that he could, in fact, take credit for the uptick. Now, I suppose in that particular regard, you might be able to grant the case. But for a guy who's all about not only the pipelines, no drilling, no permits, no fracking, nothing. For this guy to take credit for that is worse than, well, it's not worse than him taking credit for ending the war in Iraq. That was just...
You're saying just because we pulled the Dutch boy away from the dike, suddenly we have the flow?
There you go.
Stop it.
Yes, I suppose so. I suppose so. I don't know what I really... I just think he's mentally ill.
Somebody on Twitter said that this is like King George III taking credit for the creation of the United States of America.
Well, yeah. And I guess to a certain extent we should be grateful to those who wish us harm because of what it requires us to do to defend ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I want to talk about.
It's kind of like in the Old Testament where Nebuchadnezzar was used by God as an instrument of discipline to God's own people, the Jews, and yet there's no need for the Jews to rise up and be thankful for Nebuchadnezzar. It's like
yes,
it was something that God needed to accomplish in the lives of His people, and He used this wicked, emperor kind of guy. But that doesn't mean we should turn around and say, "Hey, thank you, buddy."
All right.
Okay, so, we've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to get right at it. And that work is made possible by our friends, our family, our contributors here at BillWhittle.com who cough up that $9.95 a month, which we know that you work for. I got to see this weekend, I kind of live in this little cloistered world where I'm with people who wear neckties, or at least people who talk to webcams. And so, except when I'm out in public, which I, am rarely allowed to be under the terms of the court agreement. But, I don't get to see as many real people as I'd like. And I saw a guy show up at my brother's viewing wearing high rubber boots covered with like mud and cement, and one of his relatives was giving him a hard time for not going home and changing clothes, and both me and my other brother looked at him and said, no, this is how our brother would have wanted you to show up. And there's a lot of people out there who earn their living in muddy boots, and we thank you if you're one of those, especially for putting some of that physical labor, or if yours is emotional labor or intellectual labor, into our enterprise here and sharing that with us. We're grateful for it. It makes our hearts beat a little faster and makes us ever more devoted to bringing you the truth in these conversations that we call Right Angle. So for Stephen Green and Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making this possible.
Makes our heart beat, period.
Fair enough.